Today we continue our mini deep dive series into early 3D platform games, exploring the ins and outs of Bubsy 3D on the PlayStation. The fourth game in the series, and the first to make a 3D appearance, the original being Bubsy in Claw's Encounters of the Third Kind, released in North America over 3 years earlier on the SNES. Also known as Bubsy 3D Forbidden Planet, the game's complete name is a reference to the 1956 sci-fi film Forbidden Planet. Bubsy is an orange bobcat who travels to the planet Rayon, where the game takes place, to stop the alien Woolies by collecting atoms along with rocket parts to return safely to Earth. He can run, jump, glide, swim, and pilots a rocket car on certain levels. There's 18 levels in total that, apart from boss levels, contain atoms that you can collect. 50 gets you an extra hit point, 100 an extra life, and if at least 150 atoms are collected, a bonus round opens up. 3 of the 18 levels are set underwater, where an oxygen meter is displayed and depletes over time. While underwater, Bubsy's usual gliding action is replaced by a jet-in dive, which while depletes oxygen quicker, makes him swim faster and attack enemies. But to complete a non-boss level, Bubsy must touch a teleporter, being a spinning red exclamation point with green rings around it. You may notice something a bit odd about the cutscene, as they were first hand-drawn and animated in 2D before 3D models were made and the animation copied best they could frame by frame. The game has 2 endings, depending on if all 32 rocket parts have been collected or not. If not, his ship becomes stranded in space. If so, due to his speed and the atoms he's carrying, rips through space and time and ends up trapped in the Stone Age. In both cases, the Woolies still proceed to invade Earth though, which is great for setting up a sequel, but sucks for Bubsy, given he's destined to lose and be stranded either way. There's a 2-player mode in the game, where the winner is the player who collects the most points, achieving the highest score. Developed by Eidetic and published by Accolade for the PlayStation, although within Europe distribution was handled by British publisher Telstar Electronic Studios under their budget label Telstar Fun & Games. Eidetic was founded in 1992 as Blank, Berlin & Co., as it was made up of Mark Blank, a founder of Infocom, and the game designer and creator of the Bubsy character, Michael Berlin. The company were renamed Ben Studio in 1995, as they're also known for creating the Siphon Filter series, and now a first-party developer for Sony, creating more recent titles like Days Gone. Michael was renowned for creating interactive text-based adventure games, being part of the core design team at Infocom, and also working for Activision and EA, but had a really strong desire to break out of the genre. He came across Sonic and was obsessed by it, playing for nearly 14 hours a day for a whole week, and wanted to bring out his own Sonic or perhaps Mario-based platform game, so went to his then EA producer at the time to float the idea, but the response he got was, "Not on your life, go back to writing stories, that's all you know." He left EA and was contacted by Sam Nelson, a producer at Accolade, to ask whether they could use his text system coupled with Steve Cartwright's graphical system, and what came of it was no platform game, but visually certain getting closer, as after joining Accolade himself, Les Manley in Search for the King was released, and he now had producers with open ears for his dream platform proposal and character. Bubsy was a successful and highly anticipated game in 1993, but after Michael left Accolade, the sequels nosedived and the series needed a revamp, so Accolade pleaded with him to return, and he would so, but only if he could create a game from the ground up and in full 3D. Development started in April 1995 with a team of approximately 8 people, and it was originally begun for the Sega 32 times before switching to the PlayStation. The team paid particular attention to Bubsy's animations, taking inspiration heavily from Warner Brothers cartoons. Although normally reserved for menus and character selection screens, the team decided to opt for the PlayStation's higher 420i resolution mode for the whole game, and due to this didn't have much choice but to populate all the environments with flat shaded polygons, while texture mapping and guard shading the characters. Pretty much, the opposite to Naughty Dog with Crash Bandicoot. Although very much to do with hardware constraints, Berlin said the combination was chosen because it made the character stand out, ensuring the player's attention would be on Bubsy rather than on the backgrounds. Late in the game's development, Berlin was shown a preview of Super Mario 64 during his time visiting the January 1996 Consumer Electronics Show, and realised Bubsy 3D was seriously off the mark and would be put to shame. The issues were, though, not only had they already been paid to make the game, but Accolade insisted on releasing the game on time, so the team aimed to make the best of the game they could. The development of Bubsy 3D presented substantial technical hurdles. Adapting the core mechanics from the 2D games proved especially problematic, as the linear side-scrolling progression had no direct equivalent in 3D space, requiring a complete rethinking of movement and spatial navigation without precedents from prior platformers. There was Bug for the Sega Saturn, which we reviewed earlier in this mini deep dive series, which was successful, but it wasn't technically a fully 3D game, so there wasn't much to gauge from it. So development was as difficult as it could be. There was no Super Mario 64 or Crash Bandicoot, there was nothing to go on in the true 3D space, no pre-made tools, no existing character controls for a 3D open world environment, no workflows, no level design, no correlated rendering calculations versus polygon count, nothing. An effective camera system emerged as another major obstacle and ultimately remained fixed over dynamic tracking. Performance optimization further strained resources, with frequent frame drops and geometry engine bottlenecks. Collision detection suffered from imprecision, and primitive 3D bounding volumes resulted in erratic interaction between Bubsy and the environment. Berlin described the development as overwhelming with such technical demands and left residual bugs. These issues underscored the era's hardware constraints, where pushing 3D complexity often came at the cost of stable performance without advanced optimization techniques. In an effort to innovate, the team incorporated experimental elements like underwater swimming sequences and vehicle piloting, such as with the rocket car level, to explore 3D platforming. The swimming introducing fluid dynamics and vehicles testing scripted physics interactions, although both were hampered by the same rendering and control challenges that plagued the core game. A Sega Saturn version of the game was announced, internally titled Bubsy 3 and seen in promotional material from winter 1996, and it was going to take advantage of the Saturn's analog controller. Unfortunately, as the Saturn's dual processor architecture and distinct graphics pipeline differ so greatly from the PlayStation's, along with the escalating resource limitations at Accolade, the port was cancelled, accelerated by the underwhelming reception the PlayStation versions received, and so priorities shifted away from further platform expansions. Any attempts to port Bubsy 3D ended by 1997. After all the poorly received reviews, critics, cancelled ports, Accolade still wanted to make a Bubsy 4 and wanted Michael to pitch them a new game. But Michael was out. He took a 2-year break from game development, and he nor Accolade even worked on a Bubsy game again. The marketing campaign for Bubsy 3D included television commercials and magazine advertisements. Magazine advertisements appeared in outlets like GamePro, October 96 issue, and Electronic Gaming Monthly, featuring vibrant artwork and quotes from pre-release previews that praised the title as establishing a new standard in the platform genre. Television commercials aired in 1996, which showcased Bubsy's adventurous antics in 3D settings, accompanied by his signature catchphrase, "What could possibly go wrong?" In hindsight, of course, not the best tagline to choose from. Quite an odd aspect of Bubsy 3D was its memory card support. Like most PlayStation games, it supported memory cards, but for those who bought it in Europe, saving progress via memory card just wasn't an option, and you had to use a password system instead. Other interesting additions were there's an unused death scene in the files of Bubsy 3D, of Bubsy falling through a floor. This may have been an animation for falling through holes or pits, which suggests that fall damage was at one point going to return as a mechanic from its original SNES release. Despite its ambitious shift to 3D, Bubsy 3D was subject to a few mixed but mostly very negative critical reviews and reception, citing its sluggish controls, imprecise camera angles, repetitive level design, and grating voice acting, leading to its reputation as one of the weakest early PlayStation titles and effectively killing off the series. The next game wouldn't appear for nearly 21 years, with Bubsy the Woolies Strike Back for the PS4 and PC. Several publications have ranked it amongst the worst video games in history. Less than a year after they reviewed Bubsy 3D, Electronic Gaming Monthly listed it as the 7th worst console game of all time. IGN's Levi Buchanan cited the game as a failure to transition from 2D to 3D, and Retro Gamer magazine named it one of 3 games to avoid, calling it a rushed, near unplayable misfire that badly damaged its company's reputation. PS Extreme, on the other hand, as the US box art displays, gave the game a 93% score and an editorial Gold X award. For many years, the combination of the magazine's obscurity and the general accepted notion of the title's low quality led many to believe that the quotes and award were faked, but this was actually disproven in 2018. In a 2015 interview, Berlin called Bubsy 3D his biggest failure. although highlighted his team had no precedent to follow, so must be deserving of some praise to make the leap. As of April 2023, Atari SA has reacquired the Bubsy franchise, and Bubsy 3D was re-released for the first time in 2025 as part of Bubsy in the Perfect Collection. The compilation has widescreen support and a refurbished edition of the game with analog control. Atari announced Bubsy 4D in August 2025 and is scheduled for release later this month. Thanks again for watching all the way to the end of the video, and if you enjoyed this content we'll be releasing more mini deep dives into further 3D platform games soon, so please subscribe so you don't miss out. Here's a list of cheats if you fancy jumping into Bubsy 3D and giving it a whirl. As I've had to endure this over the production of this video, I think it's only fair our viewers do too. As a small treat, here's a sample of 2 of the levels' music. It won't weigh on your brain or dig at your soul much. Sorry, not sorry. Till next time!